There's a Red Hood problem that I think could significantly impact his inclusion in the DCU, or even if he's included at all. Hey everyone, thanks for watching DCU Chronicle. I'm sure you'll have your comments about this. If you do have any thoughts or opinions, leave them down below. Today we're going to jump into a narrative issue that I think Red Hood has that will impact his inclusion in the DCU. I'm going to break it down. I think there's two elements to the issue, so I'm going to break that down. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give my solution of how I think you can include Red Hood in the DCU in an interesting way, in a way that will make him a pivotal character going forward and do something a little bit different with the character. Now, before we get started, I'd love to hear your opinions. I'm sure you have them. Please drop them down below in the comments. And if you would like to like and subscribe, that'd really help me out. My current goal is to get to 100 subscribers. I think that's an achievable goal. And if you'd like to help me achieve that, I'd really appreciate it. So if you clicked on this video, you're probably like me. You're a big Jason Todd Red Hood fan. And you know all about the character, and you love the character just like I do. So you would know all these things about him. You would know he was the second Robin after Dick Grayson. You'd know he was kind of like a tearaway, didn't stick to the rules. Batman caught him stealing the wheels off the Batmobile. That whole story about his upbringing, and then about how he and Bruce would clash, about the violence that he would do, and he had no problem wanting to kill criminals, and he wanted to break that rule. Bruce's famous one rule, he wanted to break that, and him and Bruce were at loggerheads for a lot of the time that he was Robin. And then, of course, you know, the infamous death in the family story where he's beaten to death by the Joker and killed off, and then subsequently reintroduced as kind of a villain, anti-hero, Red Hood at the start, and his struggles with Batman as he comes back, and then as he is slowly reintroduced to the Bat family and he kind of goes off on his own adventures. Now the Red Hood is a staple part of Gotham and many DC stories. Now he's a character that we all know is in there because we love the comics and we love those stories. But if you're a casual moviegoer and you don't read the comics, then you've got no idea who Jason Todd is. You didn't know he was a second Robin. You probably don't even know that there is more than one person that was Robin. You don't know about death in the family. You don't know about his resurrection as Red Hood. You probably don't know the significance of the Red Hood and how that ties back to the Joker's origin. Everything about Jason, about his history and his personality and why he is the way that he is, has to be explained to you. And you have to have that exposition of who Jason Todd is in order for the Red Hood character to really make sense. And so that does mean dedicating time to explain who he is, why he's important, and how his past ties with Batman lead to him becoming the Red Hood. And so this lack of background makes it difficult for a casual moviegoer, someone coming in cold, to really understand the significance of Jason Todd without it being laid out to you in a movie, if you're going to do it in a movie. Now, the problem with this approach is by taking the time to explain who Jason Todd is, and you'll have seen this if you played the Arkham Knight game, you're telegraphing the twists at the end. So any kind of, if you were going to do Under the Red Hood, or even kind of follow the death in the family arc all the way through to Red Hood, a TV show, a movie is going to have to spend that time explaining Jason Todd's backstory. And so the more they explain his past and the more you kind of give that exposition, which is probably necessary to a casual moviegoer, the more you have to reveal about his identity and the surprises that there are around that. And this not only diminishes the kind of the impact of that reveal, as we saw again in Arkham Knight, is probably the best example that we have of that. That game had to, I mean, spoilers for a 10-year-old game if you haven't played it yet, but that game had to explain who Jason Todd was. We got the flashbacks to him with the Joker, and we had Bruce's kind of mind games around Jason Todd and losing him and those little clues, which then completely telegraphed the reveal of the Arkham Knight. And so that disengaged a lot of viewers because this is the two-part problem. The comic book fan knows all about Jason Todd. They know him all too well. They know his entire story. The casual fan has absolutely no idea who he is. And it's that disconnect which then creates a narrative problem that you would face when bringing Red Hood into the DCU. And that's why you would need to find a way to introduce Red Hood without falling into that trap and without having to be overly explanatory and overly telegraph what's in there. You need a strategy that respects the character, respects his history, but then also keeps the narrative surprising and keeps it engaging and does it in a different way to what we're used to. And then that way you can surprise all the viewers, or you can entertain all the viewers, casuals and comic book fans alike. And as I said at the start, I do have a solution to this. I do have something that I think would work really well within the confines of the DCU, what we know about it right now. I would create a TV show, probably an animated show, of Red Hood and the Outlaws, introducing him this way. And so I feel this approach works because you're introducing him as a fully fledged Red Hood. You're not having him as part of the Bat family. He's a leader of his own team. You're not rehashing the history of Jason Todd or making it a focal point, dedicating a whole movie or a whole TV show to it when half the audience, probably more than half the audience, already knows what it is and the others need to be handheld through it. You can instead chuck him straight in there as this kind of seasoned, independent character who's moved beyond his days with Batman and into his own leadership position. And that's where I'd like this show that I have in mind, an animated Red Hood and the Outlaws show, to really kick off with him as the leader of the group. I personally would like to see the Rebirth lineup, so Jason Todd, Red Hood, Bizarro and Artemis. This would allow them to tell some different stories, keeps it fresh for the comic book fan who already knows Jason Todd, shows him in a different light, but then also introduces new viewers to Red Hood and his character and the team dynamic that he would have with the Outlaws without the need for a big, lengthy origin retelling. And that helps us avoid the trap of making his identity and the big under the Red Hood reveal and making it a predictable plot point. And it allows us to explore his own adventures and his own relationships kind of in real time with him as Red Hood. And then it also gives you the option, if you wanted, you could weave in the backstory to Jason Todd. You could do it through flashbacks and use that as your kind of narrative instrument to talk about Jason Todd and give the character more depth. Rather than going through that story in real time, he goes off on his own adventures, reminisces about the past, and then you can use flashbacks. Again, I do think Death in the Family and the artwork is so iconic, and there already is, an amazing Under the Red Hood animated movie. You could tie elements of that into an animated show and really make it shine. And that way you can provide that kind of essential context where you need to, without it overshadowing the main narrative of the Outlaws story. It keeps the focus on his current role and the dynamics of that team, while still giving you the background where it helps the story and where you need it and where the fans do ultimately want to see it. And for me, those flashbacks would be a win-win, because the long-time fans, the comic book fans, would enjoy seeing that, but you're still maintaining this fresh perspective on Red Hood whilst maintaining the intrigue of his past. So that's what I'd like to see. That's why I like to see Red Hood doing the DCU. I don't think we do Death in the Family under the Red Hood. I know people do want to see it. If you do want to see it, then let me hear your pictures down below of how we could do that without kind of spoiling the reveal of who Jason Todd is. And I personally love Red Hood and the Outlaws. I love that comic book run. I think it's really great. And it's something that I'd love to see adapted in the DCU. But if you've got any thoughts, let me know in the comments down below. And again, if you would like to like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.